morning once again, Namibia, and welcome back to the Government Information Center studio, this time around for a Public Enterprises Information Sharing session. As is the norm, I am your host, Hileni Felepo-Samunyela, and I am joined in the studio by Dr. Iyalo Constantinos. She's the head of research and development at the Namibia Institute of Pathology. Now, as you may know by now, here at the GIC, our viewers and listeners play an integral role of the GIC. To that effect, I'm once again extending a warm invitation to you, Namibia, to be part of this conversation by following the discussion on our social media platforms where we are currently streaming this show live. On Facebook, we are at the Government Information Center, and as well as on YouTube, pardon me. I would like to hear from you. Add your voice to this conversation by posting your contributions, your questions, or statements in the comment sections on our social media platforms. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome my studio guest for this morning, Dr. Iyalo Constantinos. Pardon me.
Good morning, Madam Hileni. Good morning to all our viewers. Thank you very much for having me.
Right. Now, Doctor, I'd like to give my audience just a brief introduction of who you really are. Dr. Iyalo Constantinos serves as the head of research and development at the Namibia Institute of Pathology, as earlier mentioned, and she joined the organization in the late 2020s as a virologist in the COVID-19 laboratory. And in 2021, she was entrusted with establishing the NIP's Research and Development Unit. And it aimed then at positioning the company as a leader in innovation. Through this unit, initiative to develop a manufacturing facility for laboratory consumable was then launched. Now, Doctor, for our viewers and listeners who are actually not, familiar with what we are talking about, can you briefly talk to us about the vision behind the establishment of the Medical Innovation Hub and what inspired the initiative?
Thank you for that question, Madam Hileni. So the Medical Innovation Hub is an initiative by the Namibia Institute of Pathology to start manufacturing medical consumables locally. So this is really a strategic response to the persistent supply chain challenges that we're facing, in this country, including in the medical industry. So we are heavily we heavily rely on imports, and we are seeing that that is really a problem. And
absolutely.
During COVID, we were all running around like headless chickens. Sometimes we didn't even know what to do.
You can say that again.
So we have seen that, look, if we are not going to do something about it, we are going to be in trouble. So really over the years, we've faced challenges in like stock out, long lead times because these consumables are shipped from overseas. So all these logistical delays have directly impacted the quality of our diagnostic services.
Okay.
So we realized that we need to build a resilient and responsive laboratory network by really going into manufacturing and just taking part in addressing our key value chain, and that is laboratory consumables. So that is really the vision behind this manufacturing facility.
All right. Now, Doctor, of course, that is, it's very important that realization in itself was an important one for Namibia as a nation, because as you've alluded to, during the COVID-19 times, we were constantly waiting for, medicine to arrive, and, the patients unfortunately do not, or the diseases or, the ailments don't wait. It either aggravates or it becomes worse than it was. And I think it's just really very important that Namibia realized that we needed our own. And now, away from that, I'd like to find out, Doctor, Talk to us about the steps that you took as an institution to bring this project to where it is right now, leading to the launch of this important initiative, of course.
Thank you for this question. So bringing this project to realization really took determination, innovation, and national pride. So when we realized that we needed to do something about, these supply chain challenges, we then set and we conceptualized, what are we trying to solve? How are we going to solve it? And, what are the long-term goals? So we sat down and we drafted our business plan to highlight how we're going to do this.
Okay.
So this is an uncharted territory. We are going into something that has not been done in the country.
Absolutely.
So you can imagine the challenges that are associated with that.
You were inventing, actually.
Exactly, So we even made a deliberate decision that we are not even going to have a consultant because we wanted to learn, and we wanted to learn every detail. So basically, this is why this initiative, was put under the Research and Development Unit.
Okay.
I mean, we talk about research and development like we are drinking water, but when it comes to, the actual implementation, you have to prove yourself that that's what you're actually doing. So we then made a deliberate decision that, look, let this initiative run under the Research and Development Unit. And of course, it came with intensive research. We had to know, what is this industry about? You're looking at medical grade manufacturing standard, setting up clean rooms. Because for the medical manufacturing, you cannot just put machinery into any factory.
Absolutely.
You have to put your machinery into clean rooms. You have to adhere to good manufacturing practices. So these really were the steps that we are taking to make sure that we actually are learning about this new industry that we are going into. And then one of the very key important objectives of this project is to build, a pool of our own engineers and scientists who would actually be, spearheading this industry that we are creating.
Right.
So one of the things that we did very early on was that we even approached the Namibia University of Science and Technology, to talk about how we can actually create human resource, capital, just to empower our engineers to be part of, capacitate them.
Yes.
So I'm very happy to say that we've had our very own local engineers who have been involved in this project from the very beginning.
Okay.
And, so using locally designed concept, we then presented something that was homegrown, that we came up with, using our own engineers, our own scientists. And, we felt a sense of really national pride to know that, yes, we can, to know that, yes, we can do it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Now, Doctor, as you were busy narrating the process of what it took to bring up such an important initiative, I couldn't help but wonder, were you benchmarking with some of the, industry leaders in as far as this practice is concerned? And if so, whom were you benchmarking with? What nations were those?
So we were very fortunate to have received a grant, partial grant from the European Union, together with the German government through the SADC Secretariat.
Okay.
So they are the ones who really came in with regards to exposing us to some of the innovators out there. And I even remember as part of this opportunity, going to Botswana for a forum known as the Business to Business Forum.
Okay.
And so we were able to meet up with other industrial players who are into medical manufacturing. And it also presented us an opportunity to even go to Zambia to view one of these facilities.
Okay.
In Namibia, like I said, it's a new industry. There was really no one we could go to for help and assistance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, Doctor, that is very well understood. Now, you've earlier on mentioned that you were fortunate enough to have received funding from the European Union and the government of Germany. I wanted to find out this project, was it entirely just funded by NIP, of course, in conjunction with the European Union, or were there other donors and funders that assisted you or aided you in any way?
I'm really proud to say that 80% of the funding was by the Namibia Institute of Pathology, really demonstrating our commitment to national development and innovation. You know, the NIP leadership is not taking innovation lightly. You know, we are in an era where we need to be responsive, and our CEO is always preaching agility.
Absolutely.
You know, she's very serious, you know, about us saving lives. So 80% was the Namibia Institute of Pathology, and then the other 20% came from the European Union. And this is the 20% that we use to procure the machinery, the manufacturing machinery.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Doctor, it's a common known factor here in Namibia that one of the common challenge in the public sector is basically the navigation of procurement processes. What were some of the biggest bureaucratic hurdles that you have encountered? And you know, just to get this project off the ground, because I know it can get really hectic.
Yeah, yes, it can get hectic. So the rigidity of the procurement process is not always well suited for innovative projects that have strict timelines. And this is really, you know, something that we've also faced. You know, we were partially funded, like I said, the 20%, and we had a strict timeline to implement this project. But because of these procurement processes, we were delayed in, you know, for instance, you know, the regulation requires, you know, that you advertise the bid for a specific number of days, and you're not guaranteed that you're going to get the suppliers that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
And for instance, in this case, like I said, it's a new industry. Yes, we did not get the suppliers that we were looking for, but you still had to go through that process. And when it does not yield the desired, you know, results, you have to then restart. So as, you know, so one of the things that we had to then ask from our funders is to extend the project implementation. And we're very fortunate that they understood the magnitude of this project as well. And, you know, they really had grace on us, and we got the extension that we needed. But, you know, in addition, the procurement process, we have multiple layers of approval, which can significantly delay implementation. Now, while these controls we know, you know, they are necessary for accountability and transparency. And that's why we have the procurement process. We found that the systems really need to evolve to accommodate innovation-driven projects. Because if we are serious about innovation in this country, we need to explore more agile and responsive procurement models, especially for R&D initiatives. We need to be agile. We need to evolve with the times.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
We cannot preach that enough, right? All right. Now, Namibia, if you are just, sorry, Doctor, did you want to add something?
No.
Okay.
You can continue.
Right. Namibia, if you are just tuned in, you are tuned into a Public Enterprises Information Sharing session, and we are coming to you live from the Government Information Center studio, and that is with me, Hileni Felebes Hamunyela. Now, as earlier mentioned, I am joined in the studio this morning by Dr. Iyalo Constantinos, and she's the head of research and development at the Namibia Institute of Pathology. Now, I am inviting you, Namibia, to be part of this discussion by following the conversation on our social media platforms, where we are currently streaming this show live. On Facebook, we are at the Government Information Center, and as well as on YouTube, you can be part of this discussion by posting your statements or contributions in our comment sections on our social media platforms. And be part of this conversation. I'm keen to hear from you. Doctor, back to our discussion. I'd like to find out from you. You've mentioned this is an 80% NIP-funded project, right? Do you perhaps foresee in the near future any public-private partnerships emerging as a result of this successful implementation? Because for me, and I'm sure for many other Namibians, it is a successful implementation.
Absolutely. Public-private partnerships are key to driving this industry. Mm-hmm. So while, we have successfully implemented this project and, we've reached a major milestone, mm-hmm. there is still a great deal of work to be done. This is just the beginning, Madam Heleni.
And iceberg. Okay.
So I can tell you that, the work has just started. Mm-hmm. We are talking about facility and product certification. Mm-hmm. We are talking about, establishing sales and distribution channels. Mm-hmm. We are talking about marketing this product. Mm-hmm. And this public-private partnership will really come in handy, in what we need to achieve. And if we are also thinking of, because this is really a proof of concept, and the facility that we have right now, mm-hmm. Is not a big facility, it's a small facility, but of course we would like to scale up,
yes.
Someday. So, and also to, to just build sustainability, mm-hmm. we have to go into public-private partnerships. We're looking at, key industrial players, academic institutions, whereby they will actually be developing the human capacity that we need in this industry, which we call the injection molding industry.
Okay.
So all these partnerships will really come in handy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the last time when the CEO of NIP was here, Ms. Kapena Shombonde, she was so firm on, capacity building and how she has involved the institutions of higher learnings like that of the NUST. I want to find out from you, is this still the case? We're still driving, is that still the drive within the NIP as far as capacity building to ensure that, your engineers and all these skilled, personnel are capacitated with the necessary skills?
That is it's still the same. I'll give you an example with this project. Mm-hmm. When we just started, we engaged the Namibia University of Science and Technology. They mm-hmm. have an amazing lab there called the Fabrication Design Lab, also known as the Fab Lab.
Okay.
So they are into, 3D design.
Okay.
And, as part of our clean room design that we had to design from scratch, mm-hmm. we've worked with an engineer mm-hmm. from the Fab Lab to come up with the clean room facility that we currently have, So it is still an agenda. Mm-hmm. We are pushing it. We are serious. And that is why you see things happening. So, yeah.
I like that. Doctor. Doc, as you were busy, responding to the question I just posted you now, as far as capacitating your personnel is concerned, you've mentioned a clean room, but it didn't just. It isn't the first time that you've mentioned it. It's actually, it was actually, continuously mentioned in this conversation of ours. I want, for the benefit of our viewers and listeners at home who are watching right now and are not quite clear of what a clean room facility is, briefly just give us, an idea of what a clean room is.
Right. So I'll try to really put it in layman's terms. So for you to manufacture medical grade products, the manufacturing needs to happen in a sterile environment. And the facilities that we use are called clean room. And clean room means we have some filtration as part of the facility design to ensure that we are keeping away all the contamination, that can actually get into our products. And this is very important. We are working with patients. You don't want to compromise the patient's well-being. You don't want to produce something that is contaminated that will lead to false diagnosis. So this is where the clean room, when you hear me talking about the clean room, it's really a facility that was designed in a manner to ensure that these products are being manufactured in a sterile environment. And, and this will then ensure that we are actually meeting the good manufacturing practices.
And standards, okay.
And standards, yes.
All right. Thank you so much for that, definition. I'm learning from you. Doctor, I want to find out, we are slowly coming to the end of our discussion this morning. It was quite a brief one. I wanted to find out from you now, within institutions such as NIP, and especially that you have now just mentioned that you've embarked onto this journey of the establishment, of the Medical Innovation Hub. What type of leadership did this project need to take off the ground, actually?
I can tell you this has been a learning curve. So this project required visionary, hands-on, courageous leadership because we are entering into an uncharted territory. Developing manufacturing industry that didn't exist in the country. So it demanded leaders who could think beyond traditional healthcare boundaries and imagine bold and sustainable solutions. And like you said, our CEO is always preaching agility, that we need to respond, we need to save lives. That is the leadership that you require to really take this bold step to go into the uncharted territory. So it also needed leadership that was not only technically competent, but also willing to take calculated risks, really to challenge the status quo and navigate the complex government systems. We know our government systems.
Absolutely.
I cannot even tell you this, Madam Helene. We know.
Absolutely.
So we had to drive the project with persistence and conviction, often pushing through bureaucratic delays and resource constraints, while really keeping the bigger picture in mind. On top of that, the leadership that was needed was of collaborative leadership. You are bringing together different people, scientists, engineers, procurement officers, external stakeholders, and, including our funders. And you had to communicate a shared purpose so that the people can buy into the bigger picture. So that is really the leadership that was required. But most importantly, it's a leadership that really has a long-term mindset. Embracing innovation that is not a luxury, but it's a necessity for national development. It's a necessity for us to solve our problems. It's a necessity for us not to find ourselves anymore in the same situation that we found ourselves during COVID-19. And I'm really happy to say that, the NIP leadership, is a leadership that embodies all those things that I've just mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Doctor, as earlier mentioned, ours was a very short and brief one, but very informative and educative. I would like to take this opportunity to really just express my profound gratitude for you having, taken away from your busy schedule to come and educate us and highlight a few important, pointers as far as the establishment of the this hub is concerned. I appreciate that. I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of many Namibians. But perhaps before I close off, I'd like to give you this opportunity to say your last remarks,
Thank you, Madam Heleni. Like I've mentioned, I will keep on repeating what our CEO always preaches, that we are in the business of saving lives. During COVID-19, we realized that if we are not going to take the necessary steps to drive our own economic emancipation, we will again find ourselves in trouble. So really my message out there to the Namibian nation is that let's make use of our visionary leadership, because this is really an opportunity for us to drive growth, to solve the unemployment crisis that we have in this country.
Right.
But most importantly, to really be saving lives and contributing to our public health, initiatives to ensure that every life in Namibia is taken care of, and every person in this country has an opportunity to live life and live it to the fullest.
Right.
So, yeah.
Thank you once again, Doctor, for all the sacrifices that you and your team endured to really ensure that this establishment take off, right? We really appreciate you, and thank you also for being industry innovators so that those that are coming after us don't have to reinvent, but at least take off from where we have left off as a nation.
Thank you, Madam Heleni, for having me, and thank you to all the Namibian viewers. Have a blessed day ahead.
Thank you so much. Right, Namibia, that is all that we had for this brief public enterprises information sharing session for this morning. Thank you so much for having tuned in. From myself, Hileni Felepo-Samunyela, and the entire GIC production crew. Until next time, take care.